Some people have no idea how to increase their credit limit. But not you, because you're following me for all of the daily finance tips. I'm gonna show you exactly how you can dramatically and quickly increase your credit limit, but also why I would never do the same thing myself. Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. For our new viewers that are just joining, hello, my name is John and I hope you are doing well. As somebody who has been in the credit industry for the better part of the last decade, I'd say I know a thing or two about getting your credit limit increased. So in today's video, I'm gonna talk about why someone would request a credit limit increase, how to actually go about getting your credit limit increased, and more importantly, why I would do everything in my power to avoid requesting such an increase. If that sounds interesting to you, then you know what to do. Pop a squat, tap that little thumb icon, and we're gonna dive right into it. Part 1, why would anyone request a credit limit increase? The first reason is quite simple, so that you can actually afford to charge more things onto a credit card. Oftentimes, when you're first starting out getting your first or second card in that beginner or student category, you might have a credit limit that's maybe $100, maybe $200, maybe only $500. But let's say, for example, you're gonna book a big trip out to Europe for your whole family and you're in charge of charging it off on your card. Well, that credit limit might not suffice. Or maybe you might be making a big furniture purchase and a $200 credit limit is just not sufficient enough. Therefore, it would make sense to go to the credit card companies and say, please, oh please, can I have an increased limit so that I can actually use my card day to day? The second reason, and the one I think is more important when it comes to why someone would request a credit limit increase, is so that they can improve their credit score. So let me give you guys a quick refresher on the credit score. You've got 5 key components. One is gonna be on-time payments, that's 35%. The second is gonna be credit utilization, that accounts for 30% of your credit score. Number 3 is gonna be length of credit history, that accounts for 15% of your credit score. You're gonna have credit mix, that accounts for 10%, and you're also gonna have hard increase, which accounts for 10%. You add that up, that's 100%, and that is what your credit score is comprised of. So now, let's go back to see how a credit limit increase can actually positively increase your credit score. Remember, of those 5 key components, one component was called credit utilization, and that accounted for 30% of your credit score. What is credit utilization? Well, that's just simply how much credit are you using relative to the credit that the bank gives you. So let's say on a credit card, you get a $1,000 credit limit. And let's say you go and buy some items and you charge $500 onto that credit card. Well, you take 500, you divide it by 1,000, that's 50%. You're using 50% of your total available credit. And in the credit card world, 50% is not good. That shows that you might be at a higher risk to the bank because, wow, you're using a lot of the credit that we are extending you. I know it seems counterintuitive. It's like, well, why did you give me $1,000 of credit limit if you only want me to use less than that? That's neither here nor there. But just understand that a good utilization score is anything under 20%. Honestly, I try to keep mine below 10 or 5%, but anything below 20%, you should be good. And in this example of charging $500 to a $1,000 credit limit, you have 2 options to reduce your credit utilization. You can either not spend $500, so you only charge $200 against a $1,000 credit limit, you're at 20%. Or on the flip side, you could increase your credit limit from say $1,000 to $2,000 and 500 over 2,000, that's a 25% utilization. Is that great? We could probably do better, but it's definitely better than 50% utilization. To summarize part 1 of why someone would request a credit limit increase, 1, to be able to afford more things, and 2, so that they could potentially increase their credit score. Part 2, how do you actually request a credit limit increase? So you've got 3 options. Option 1 is to just spend more money. I know it's a little bit counterintuitive because earlier we said, well, if you spend a ton, you're gonna get hit on the utilization front, and then that could decrease your credit score. But also if you spend a ton, you're showing a bank that, hey, look at that, John is spending a lot on his credit cards, and look at that, his income seems to support his spending, therefore we should just extend him more credit. That's the easier way to do it. Now, I would say that way probably takes a little bit longer, right? Because the bank has to see that you're consistently chewing up more and more of your available credit for them to say, okay, this is a risk we're willing to accept, extend John more credit. The second way to go about it is to go online, log into your account, and hit request credit limit increase, enter your amount, and see what the bank spits back to you. And the third option is to just pick up the phone and call the bank if that button doesn't exist online. One of the banks that we could talk about is American Express. With American Express, if you get a credit card by them, so unlike a charge card like an Amex Gold, which by the way, if you eat food, you need to check out that card, or an American Express Platinum, a credit card from American Express would be something like a Blue Cash Everyday. That you can actually get a 3x credit limit increase after having opened the card for 60 days. And it's as simple as picking up the phone, calling American Express, and requesting for a 3x credit limit increase. A recap of part 2, how to actually get that credit limit increase. 1, spend more money. 2, request it directly online. Or 3, call in, and with American Express credit cards, after having opened the card for 60 days, you can request for a 3x credit limit increase. Part 3, why I would never request a credit limit increase. The first reason is the fact that I would much rather apply for a new credit card than get a credit limit increase, because if I apply for a new credit card, A, I'm gonna get more credit, but also I get a sign-up bonus. See, if I have the same old credit card, let's say a Chase Freedom card that has a $500 credit limit, and I want to get a, say, $1,000 credit limit, sure, I can go ahead and ask Chase for that. However, if I'm in a position, I'd much rather go and apply for a Chase Sapphire Preferred or a Chase Sapphire Reserve that might have a minimum credit limit of $5,000 or $10,000, and I'm gonna get a sign-up bonus. I think that's way more efficient than just getting, even if I was to go from a $500 credit limit on a Chase Freedom to a $5,000 credit limit on a Chase Freedom, I don't think that's as valuable as getting an entirely new card and having a higher credit limit. The second reason is hard increase. Some banks, when you request for a credit limit increase, they're gonna pull your credit again to see, hey, are you worth giving a higher credit limit to? Well, if you are gonna pull my credit, I'd much rather use that hard inquiry to apply for a new card. The reason being is some banks are sensitive to how many hard inquiries you have. And in the whole points and miles ecosystem, the objective is opening as many cards as you can to get as many sign-up bonuses as you can. And if anything stands in the way of that, I'm going to avoid it. And so instead of requesting for a credit limit increase, getting my credit pulled, I would rather apply for a credit card and get my credit pulled, because that is much more beneficial to me. Now, some people are also gonna say, well, isn't a hard inquiry gonna impact your credit score? Yes, but it's 10% and it only lasts on there for 2 years. So I don't really worry about the credit hit so much as the mark of an inquiry that might deter a future bank from issuing me a new credit card. To summarize part 3 of why I would never request a credit limit increase: 1, I'd much rather apply for a new card, get a sign-up bonus, and get an extended credit limit. And 2, I don't want to waste a hard inquiry that might disqualify me from a future credit card sign-up bonus. Now let me give you some examples of where you can find credit cards with higher credit limits. One of the things you want to look for when you apply for a credit card is the little badge on the bottom left. It's going to say either Visa, or it's going to say MasterCard, or I guess you have Discover, let's say Discover, and Amex is Amex. But we're going to focus on the Visa badges. So a Visa badge on a credit card, let's say a Chase Sapphire Preferred, might say a Visa Signature Card, and a Visa badge on a Chase Sapphire Reserve might say Visa Infinite. Those are important to keep in mind because all Visa Signature cards tend to have a minimum credit limit of $5,000. If you apply for a Chase Sapphire Preferred, the minimum credit limit is going to be $5,000. And on the flip side, a Visa Infinite card will typically have a credit limit minimum of $10,000. You apply for a Chase Sapphire Reserve, that's a $10,000 credit limit minimum. That's one way to kind of have a proxy gauge of what a credit limit might be for a particular card based on the badging logo. And for American Express credit cards, let's say the American Express Gold, that's a charge card, and charge cards do not have credit limits. They are simply swipe and use. However, you do have a limit of how much you can swipe based on your spending history. Even though they won't publish a credit limit per se, you can't just take an American Express Gold and swipe $1 million, because American Express has no way of actually knowing if you can pay that back. And so I actually don't really know what the limit is on my Gold or my Platinum. What I will do is if I have a large purchase, I'll say, hey, can I charge $5,000, $10,000, $20,000? And they'll either say yes or no. Now here are 2 credit cards I recommend if you want to have a more expanded limit. The first one is one we just talked about, which is the American Express Gold. This card is one of my favorite cards for people who eat food. If you eat food, you should get this card. That's because it comes with a sign-up bonus anywhere from 60 to 70,000 points after you spend $4,000 in 6 months, but it will earn 4 points for every single dollar that you spend at a grocery store or at a restaurant, 3 points per dollar spent on airfare or booking air travel with American Express Travel. But the value of this card is the fact that it comes with $240 worth of, I would say, food credits. $120 as a dining credit that you can use at Grubhub, $120 as a dining credit that you can use with Uber Eats, $240 of credits, $250 annual fee. You're paying $10 effectively for it. Again, as a charge card, there is no credit limit. So this thing can get pretty high up there for spend. And if you're interested to support the channel anyway, feel free to check out my affiliate links down below. The second card that I want to talk about is the Capital One Venture X. This is my #1 card recommendation for 2023. It's one of my favorite cards. It's one of the top travel cards in 2023 because this card will literally put $5 back in your pocket. It competes against the Chase Sapphire Reserve. It competes against American Express Platinum, but those cards you pay for. This card pays you. It comes with a 75,000 point sign-up bonus. You will earn 10 points per dollar spent if you book hotel and car rental through the Capital One travel portal, you will earn 5 points per dollar spent if you book airfare through the Capital One travel portal, and you will earn 2 points for every other purchase. But the value is this card comes with a $300 travel credit for redemption through the Capital One travel portal every year, as well as a $100 anniversary credit just for having the card. $400 worth of total credits against a $395 annual fee, $5 in your pocket. You have global entry, you have TSA pre-check, you have the lounge access. It's a top tier travel card that pays you. Oh, not to mention, it's a Visa Infinite card, meaning the minimum credit limit is $10,000. However, most people that I know that have applied for this card, myself included, have gotten a $25,000 credit limit simply by just applying. So folks, this has been a phenomenal video. Thank you all again for tuning in. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, drop them down in the comment section. And if you haven't already yet, feel free to check out any of my TikTok lives where I go into some more detail about all the cards. And if you want to ask me live questions, that's where you can find me. All right, I will catch you all next week. Peace.